Well, we got a lot of sounds going on, don't we? So, I well, hello everyone. Hello. How's everybody doing? How's everybody doing? So, I want to start um, by hold on. Bless you. Thank you, my baby. Around here with the cats and the dogs now. So, um, I want to start out with catching up with the scientific skeptic. Um, mm, sci- the scientific skeptic. Um, I'm not really sure what all he's got going on. I just saw a community post. Um, Let me pull up the chat real quick. Thank you. Bless all of you. Achoo. Son, go do me a favor. Go shut that refrigerator you left open. You see how the door is open? Go shut it for me. All right. So, um, the scientific skeptic 37 minutes ago, he posted, I'm trying to piece it all together today, but I will need help as I could not gather all the info and some of the content is no longer available. Good morning, Country Road. Last night was a horror farce show on the TIR and Among the Clown Posse. It was some sort of surreal mix of The Price is Right with CM playing an illiterate Bob Barker, a hint of the Jerry Springer Show, and the SNL version of Celebrity Jeopardy. We can now say the CCF is complicit and enabling their deranged McDonough and at least Greg Cooper. I don't know who is CCF. I don't know that acronym. Who's CCF, guys? Oh, sorry to hear that, Arkansas mama. Be careful catching up on those. Thank you, Peach. um, who's CCF? Cold Case Foundation. Gotcha. Okay, I'm with you now. At least Greg Cooper. CM seems to have turned against the clown posse, but not sure of the dynamics. Total implosion. TM goes on incoherent tirade, but ends up deleting her live after CM turns on her and blocks them all. AB goes after Doug. Again, apparently Joshy and Dougie create a new conspiracy theory that nomadic treks set up fish. And the TIR clinically diagnoses Chris and Doug as being the dark triad. I wish I could make this stuff up. Also, Chris has added some groovy 70 porn music to his intro. YouTube true crime has entered late stage dementia. As comical as this has become, these people are really playing with fire. More dangerous witch hunt seems inevitable. From what I just heard so far, they're describing themselves 70s porn music. I'm not really sure. Like I didn't pay attention to anything last night. So is this just play, or did all this stuff actually happen? I'm not really sure. Like CM blocked everybody. Thank you for sharing. Benny can only listen for 50 minutes. It's so stupid. If I'm not alive, get frustrated. I cannot connect, comment, tell them. I missed a lot this week. Is all this stuff, did it actually happen? Okay, get this. Was spying on just all the way through. I'm on the hunt for info on a mod called Dirty Diana. Crazy bitch offering a Benjamin for info. TM and AB were deleted. He made chat. They were deleted how? I'm out the loop too, baby. That's crazy. Yeah, TM was crying about it in a live she deleted afterwards. Okay. I heard the Sandman is no, that's not him. I don't know who that person is. To be honest with you, I don't know who that is. Sly One. I don't know who that is. I've also heard that name is an Indian person. I don't know how they gathered that. That doesn't even make any sense. So, hello to Florida. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna move ahead a little bit here. I'm just, I think it's nuts. Wax poetic about kingdoms, realms, and princes. I'm almost tempted to think he watched the whole Fish McDonough series. He equates leadership to hiring guards and building walls around himself. I don't want to read all that. Friends with Don and Candace. You are Sly? Thank you, Rage. You're friends with the Wells? I don't know. Are you just here to distract everyone from who that person really is? Because I don't know who Tim Mullins is. Sorry. I have no idea. I don't know. Sorry. Anyhow, so it seems as if true crime has imploded. And you know what, man? We're not going to be doing a whole bunch of this name stuffer uppers. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know who you are, man, but TM went on a rant. CM chatter. Okay, so if you don't, what, baby?
No, the robot.
The robot puppies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna move on to the 5 stages of grief and how it relates to the behavior that we're seeing, because it's not anymore a hunt. He's friends with DNC and everybody important in Kingsport. He's from India, yes. I don't know, but we're not gonna be putting a bunch of names in here because I like to keep my chats, and when you put a bunch of stuff in the chats about people's names and stuff, then that's why the chats don't come up. Okay, so what we're going to take a look at today is the 5 stages of grief explained as it relates to the behavior of the Wells. This isn't a hard deal to create content for a lot of the content creators that are involved in the implosion, I guess, that happened last night. So we're going to go ahead and move forward with the first stage.
Shock and denial. And this is the first reaction that most people have when hearing the news of a devastating loss. And, frozen disbelief and denial may follow. If someone brings the news to you that someone very close to you has passed, it's very likely you're going to react with this shaken, no kind of feeling. Your mind is simply not able to process the horror, and it's protecting you by completely denying the reality. You might decide to believe that someone's making a practical joke in some cases, or you might even laugh when you hear the news, the way a child laughs in the dark to dispel the fear. Numbness may follow. It's nature's way of letting you deal only with your emotions that you're capable of handling.
I think that we see that right there. He says, only with what we're able to, capable of handling. And I think that at different times throughout the course of this, we've seen sort of just an overload, right? Now, a lot of overloads that you're seeing are there. There is no standard typical overload. We know that, right? There's no typical or atypical way to respond to the outward lashing of your grief. There's no typical or atypical way that response is equated to the people that are watching. But there is a very typical way in which most of us psychologically, physiologically get through the grieving process. So.
And denial, it's really a very helpful stage of grief, but at some point you'll be ready to face the reality. And reality means a range of very painful emotions that are...
Now, so what I want to point out is that the shock and denial part of the Wells case, in my opinion, you didn't really get to see, we saw so much. You're right there? We saw so much, you okay? Of the beginning phases of their grieving process, but I don't think that we ever saw. I think their shock and denial was a very short period. There is no timetable, or there is suggested timing for how you should be moving along, but I think the shock and denial phase is one of those that it could either drag out for a long time, or you could get over that pretty quickly. And I think in terms of an abduction, it's almost pertinent that you get over it, the denial part of it, because you're just not any help if you're not past that part, that emotion, right? Although it's very healthy. You okay there, bub?
No.
Okay. Although it's very healthy and it's a part of it, you have to go through these stages. So just because we didn't see the shock and denial stage doesn't mean that it didn't happen. Hoo-ah?
You're going to follow. There's no rule as to how long you should be in denial. There's no...
The rule of thumb, I think for a healthy for a healthy transition through your pain. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to do it all here. So, son, why don't you trade me spots? Here, you get over here to your right. You go to your right. Well, let's play the Mura. I'm sorry, guys. I got it all going on here. So, I have never experienced denial. How many of you in the chat have experienced denial? How many? Put a 1 in the chat if you have experienced denial. And what I want everyone to do is I want you to also, so this is a dual-edged exercise, so to speak, right? So I want you to apply this to the Wells, right? Now, in no specific order. I would like for you to apply this to your life first. Apply this to your life first, but also bearing in mind bearing in mind that we know tragedy happens every single day. And I think that one of the things that we have to bear in mind is that we have a lot of people that are here covering this case, watching this case, interacting with this case, and they may be going through denial or certain parts of the grieving process. And you know, when you're in an atypical situation in your life, you know, atypical responses are they're expected. So to have an atypical response, you know, like lashing out towards somebody on YouTube or being ugly or, you know, anything more than the regular banter, right? When you go past that, it becomes very toxic very quickly.
Rule that everyone has to go through the denial stage. You might.
Yeah. So look at how many people here have experienced denial. I too have experienced denial. I think that if you know, and I'm not to pick on anybody, but I think if you say you haven't experienced denial, then you might still be in denial about a situation. Hua?
Be able to jump straight into
Two.
highly emotional stages such as anger or guilt. But if you persist in denying the reality of your loss, you do need help. And that help can come from a close friend or a relative who knows you.
So this is where the Wells situation started to get off track. Now, it wasn't in the shock and denial phase. It was when you start to reach out to what looks like a support system. And let me tell you what's been such a detriment, and I think that's played into the behavior you see from the Wells, is that they've had, hold on, sir, they've had so many what they thought were friends come out and be played against them publicly, visually, very publicly on the YouTube, right? So that is a very atypical situation. It is very atypical to have a rush of new friends and then a rush of friends that turn on you, right? That is a very atypical situation. So you put someone in an atypical situation, but you're expecting a typical response. What you actually are is creating a no-win situation for this person. And the people that create no-win situations are the crazy ones.
Sometimes the help of a trained therapist or grief counselor may be necessary. You need to accept that the loss is a part of life and that the pain that comes with the loss.
Now, loss is a part of life, and we all know that. This sort of loss that the Wells, and moreover, Candace and Grandma Candace, they have experienced a type of loss that's unequivocal to anything that we could imagine. Now, I'm not trying to diminish anyone else's loss, but what I'm trying to say is that unless you've lost a sister and a daughter, or you know, this combination of loss, then this loss is specific to them, and it's a horrible loss. I mean, let's just be honest about it, right? It's the kind of loss that you couldn't imagine for one family to have to endure, right?
Will slowly pass. The love you feel will remain, and you'll always have the memories.
Yes, Angie, they hang on to anyone and everyone for support. In this most trying time, right? Every single person seemingly leaves them out to dry. So it's a very dynamic situation for the Wells. Not only are they trying to grieve, they're also trying to navigate and circumvent and vet an online community that they know can be helpful, because there's the shining stars in this community that are so helpful to the Wells. And so they come here trying to dispel and disprove rather the bad facets of this community, right? And there's so many that what happens is during all of this, also you have to understand that there's been a transformation in the Wells, whereas they have become addicted. Probably there's a very high potentiality that they've become addicted. There's always that next, like they're a glutton, an actual glutton for punishment now. Now we know gluttony is a sin, one of the 7 sins, right? But it's gluttony as it relates to anything, right? Whether it be gluttony of shopping or gluttony of, you know, eating, or gluttony of, you know, pain and you know, the addictive morbid curiosity of trying to see what's the next worst thing they can say about you. I do want to mention right now, and this is to Evil Exists. Evil Exists. Their last video was about an African American gentleman in the church, and I'm here to tell you, this is via Don. You have the wrong individual. That is not that person. You know, you know, Carla Z, part of grieving is allowing people in that growth and that, you know, that what you're essentially trying to do. Grief is the separation from the thing that causes you pain, but it has to be a full of growth experience, guys. Now, I also want to mention here, guys, for anyone that is still just out of their mind with what, you know, with with wanting to call the services on me and my family. What I need you to understand is that you don't call the service. Hold on, what, sir? You need to move over to the tile. You're trying to build it on the carpet, and the carpet will never allow you to build it up tall because it starts off crooked. So move it over to the tile. You sit on the carpet, but move to the tile. There's a certain personality that we come on here with, right? Now, I have a personality that's the Blood Money Benny Keys personality. That's all about shock and awe and bringing the exploitation and different things into a light quickly with you know, I've always said that me having the message and the way that I say it, it qualifies people, right? If you can get past a few curse words and me hollering at the screen a little bit, you know, like an angry, obsessed, you know, 40-year-old dad or an angry grandpa, you know, whatever, then I think that you can receive the message, right? And so when it's time to give the informative sort of science stuff, there has to be a different Benny because, you know, you got to be able to scale that back. And so the fact that I'm able to yoke and be different Bennies for the situation, you know, I think should be incumbent on the fact that, you know, you need to chill out with the services, right? Like come on now. You didn't call services on Jim Carrey when he was the Mask, or, you know, when Arnold Schwarzenegger plays the action hero and they're shooting all through the house. Did you feel the need to call CPS on that too, right? Like, or when you're watching the Housewives of wherever USA, and they're drinking and they're smoking and they're all the time, like, do you feel the need to call the CPS on them too, right? Like, for you to be able to reach out in real life and do that is irresponsible. Okay, Papa. I know, but I sat here and watched you roll it under there, so I have very little sympathy right now. But what you do have is a lot of other blocks right there. Let me see you make me something.
But I can't.
Yes, you can.
Rocket.
You can build a rocket.
No, I can't.
Look at the box right there. See on the box?
You need to let yourself continue to grieve in order to reach acceptance, which is the final stage of this all. Only then can life truly go on. The next stage is pain and guilt. Once you get out of this denial phase, the pain's going to hit you with full blast, and it might feel overwhelming at times. It might be very tempting during this stage to try to dull the pain with drugs or alcohol.
Now, even in a clinical sense, even in a very clinical sense, they talk about right here, they're going to talk about drugs and alcohol being a crutch during the pain and guilt phase, right? Now, what you need to understand is how the stages are coupled with other. So you know, it's you're going through the pain, but then subsequently at the same time, you're also, you know, venturing through some guilt, right? Those things have a tendency to accompany each other and be very, you know, non-complementary. You know, they don't go well together. Now, when you start to add some alcohol and some substances potentially here, what you run into is a situation that is like a tinderbox, right? So Um,
so she wouldn't feel bad. And,
rather, let's go here.
This is breaking news from News Channel 11.
What I think, what I think we all need to do, and I hate to say the word woke, but we need to wake up, right? We need to wake up because right now we are in a time, this is going to be grief exploitation at its very finest. This isn't about Summer Wells, although it's got many facets and it's a very angular, exploitative event, a piece of media, right? It says a stupid decision. Wells family releases statement after father of Summer Wells arrested on DUI CH charge. So why is that breaking news? I'm asking you, Channel 11, because let me tell you what, a lot of these other YouTube lowlifes, they pattern their behavior and their content off of the news channels. I mean, quite frankly, a lot of the content that they base these 8-hour lives on is a minute and 32-second little excerpt from you. So we have you doing this, and then we have we have the YouTubers following in suit. And then, we also know that YouTube web sleuths, I'm on a couch now, couch sleuths, they they hopefully, at the very least, will pattern their investigations after, the police presence as well. So, it's such a dynamic situation now that here in WJHL, they don't have enough else going on that this is breaking news. And that's really tragic. But why this is pertinent to right now is because in the guilt and pain stage, we know that a lot of times a lot of people lean on alcohol, prescription pills, situations where maybe you're already on a prescription pill of some sort, and then a tragedy happened, and then of course your intake and your upkeep become a little less manageable. So let's play that clip.
The father of missing Hawkins County 5-year-old Summer Wells was arrested on Saturday night. Thank you for joining us on News Channel 11 and ABC Tri-Cities this morning. I'm Ansley Daniel. Don Wells was reportedly arrested for driving under the influence. According to Sergeant Betty Crawford with the Hawkins County Sheriff's Office, Wells is facing multiple charges, including a DUI, having an open container, and violation of financial responsibility, among other charges. Wells is currently being held on a $5,750 bond. No further details regarding.
That may have been accurate at the time, but he was given a personal recognizance bond and released to go home.
His arrests have been released at this time. The Wells family has released a statement following Summer's father's arrest on the blog section of their website, findsummerwells.com. It's titled, "Thank you for the prayers," and reads, "Thank you everyone for kind messages. There are no words to what each day and night is like. We needed cigarettes. It was a stupid decision. Please keep us in prayer. Keep Dawn. This pain won't go away. Thank you." End quote.
So right there is, I mean, it's case in point, right? You just are in a situation where I would say that they are probably somewhere coming out of the second phase into the third phase, and we'll get into that here momentarily. Does Don still have to go to court over that arrest? Yeah, he does, of course. So that's, there's just a lot going on. And so most of us, when we're in the middle of a tragedy and we make a stupid decision, like Don did, and we get a DUI, it's not plastered for everyone to make a judgment against our personality. And that's all these things are really good for, right? It's breaking news. They say it's breaking news. So why that's pertinent to the family, is beyond me. Let me say, WJHL, what you could do is you could go to a local AA, and you could probably show people there this commentary, and then ask them, their opinion on Don's situation, if any of them have been watching online. And there's just a lot of different ways to make content. Today is proof of concept, I hope. It's really a difficult thing to watch people flounder around and get caught up in the, hey, remember, you don't run around in steps. We don't run around those steps. Okay.
But pain can be healing too, like the pain of birth. It results in a new reality, the reality of your new life.
Now, let's make mention really quick. I want to throw this in here.
Investigators throughout their search efforts.
Friends of the family tell us.
Amy, thanks. And we want to point out here that TBI says the Wells family has been very cooperative with investigators.
She went missing on June 15th. Here it is, exactly 10 days later.
Throughout their search efforts.
Friends of the family tell us they're doing their best to keep their spirits up on day 9. News Channel 11's Bianca Murray joins us from the Beach Creek community where Summer was reported missing.
Bianca, how do friends say the family's coping with this?
Well, Josh and Sarah, a family church friend says that it's been really difficult, especially on Summer's 3 older brothers, and they're coping with the negativity that's been spreading both online and in person.
Yesterday, took them to the putt-putt golf course here in Kingsport, and just to try to let them have a peaceful day away from the search and rescue teams going on their property and the agents coming up. There was someone who made a comment that wasn't very polite.
See, you've got a lot of that sort of, this man, there's a lot of us that are watching these cases that are just weird. I'm weird. We're all weird. So David Dotson, he's weird, right? And David wasn't cut like some of us creators like me. I could care less what you say or do to me online. I don't give a damn, right? And we live in America where as long as you're living a clean life, YouTube can't really make a lot of, can't really make a dent in that, right? But this gentleman, he was run offline, run away from helping. I'm not really sure, all the complexities of David's, of his involvement. But I'll tell you what, about like anything else, let's not forget, right, that if it's day 158 or whatever it is now, that if he's still walking around and he's free, it stands to reason he's okay.
And this feeling of guilt, it's very common during this stage.
Where are you going? Okay. You're going to Grandma's bathroom? Okay, don't play with that door, remember? That door, it's right? Okay. Go pee before you pee your pants. Go. No, that is a pocket door. A pocket door.
It may come from unresolved issues. It can be the guilt of surviving a loved one, especially if the loss you experienced is the loss of someone younger. You might.
There. So the loss of someone younger. What I can tell you is that there's a natural order. We all know this natural order. It is the natural order. So the natural order is that your children bury you, and so on and so forth, right? It's out of God's order. It's out of the natural order of life to lose a child, right? Of any sort, whether it be abduction, homicidal violence, whatever that may be. To lose a child is out of order. To lose a child is atypical. Would we all agree that losing a child? Let's be honest. Let's look at the cases where, like the Houston case where the lady and the boyfriend had the little boy on the bed for 9 months. He'd been deceased. You have to know that it stands to reason that even murderers, still go through a grieving process, right? Like Some of them do. Now, although there are some that have no conscience or no remorse, but a lot of those people will commit heinous acts, and it's not really for us to judge their level or standard of asking for forgiveness. We just know that if they have, then you have to take it at face value. Sir, go use the bathroom at the end, right? The boys' bathroom. Yep, go use the boys' bathroom. All right. So there's a lot of different atypical things that go into this grieving process. The fact that there's, not now a lot of, or most oftentimes when you're thinking of your typical grieving process and the typical responses, you're thinking of a typical ride, right? You're not thinking of a child, national response, Los Angeles, Dr. Phil, WJHL. You're not thinking about all these things. You just peacefully, you lose someone and then they go on, and then it's in the natural order of things, right? And so when it's in the natural order of things, there's a tendency for the 5 stages to play out, and play out quickly, right? Like I know a lot of us. I lost my dad like 5 years ago, and although I ignored the grieving stages initially, it didn't take me very long before, in terms of, the spectrum of time, you've had these parents your whole life, and then to lose one and then get over that in a very narrow window of time is really the resiliency and the power of God, right? Hoo-ah, what? You need to go poo-poo? All right, let's go. You pooped in your pants? No way, Jose. Go, come on. No, you're not, Jose. You're right. Come here. We'll use the fancy one. Come on. So this way. Okay. So really, I know I keep harping about atypical responses, to even atypical responses in typical situations like, deaths, right? There's. You stink?
Yeah.
Well, nobody can smell you. Sweet boy. So let me step out here and give him some privacy. So there you go, my boy. Just let me know when you're done. So when you think in terms of 8, okay? I'll put the door open. I know. I'm sorry, guys. This is parenting, right? This is parenting and true criming. Okay, so when you think in terms of atypical situations, an example of a no-win situation that would be created by someone that is absolutely insane. Only someone that creates it is atypical. A no-win or a lose-lose situation is someone and expects a response, a positive, adequate response is completely insane. You're seeing a lot of these other channels that they want a very, very, very typical response to a very, very, very atypical situation, and that's never going to happen, right? Like we're never going to see. You're just not, right? There's no atypical way to or typical way to go through this. So let's move on a little.
You feel guilty for not showing your love while you could, or showing proper appreciation. The excruciating pain experienced during this stage may lead to anxiety, especially with, if you're a more emotional person. And while the feeling of guilt will pass once you're able to think rationally, the pain will remain, and it will be part of your life throughout the grieving process and, unfortunately, beyond.
Yeah, you ride the pain, right? Ride the pain.
But slowly you will be able to function and live with your pain and the reality of your loss and move on. The next stage is anger and bargaining.
Now, anger and bargaining, that is a strange mixture, right? Because it's such a complex, right? It's like anger, you're mad, you're furious, you're livid, you're beside yourself, but at the same time, you do what? We all say it, right? We do anything to have one more day. We do anything to swing her on the swing one more time, right? We all have done it. We, you know, there's actually a monetary bargaining, right? And it's more like gambling, right? But where we get into, we could also be grieving a situation before someone is dead. We could be in a terminal illness situation, where you get to a point where you're mad, you know that it's terminal, but at the same time, you'd bargain with money. You'd spend all you got just to get 6 more months. What's that, sir? You done? Okay. Anger and bargaining. Chat with yourself for a minute, okay? Stand up.
A tasty bubble gum.
You what?
A tasty bubble gum.
A tasty bubble gum?
Yeah.
What? What?
I love bubble gums. Sometimes they don't, and sometimes
I don't think we got any bubble gum, Luke.
No, Grandma has bubble gum.
Grandma, where's Grandma got bubble gum?
On the counter.
Stand right there, I'm not done.
You know the milk?
Almost. Poopy little kid. All right, wash your hands.
No, I didn't touch nothing dirty.
You didn't touch nothing dirty.
No.
Pull your pants up then.
You did.
I did. Go so I can wash my hands. All right. That's the second time he's done that to me. And what did he say to him? Like he's all the way right. He didn't touch nothing. What? Yes, you can.
I can't?
Yeah. No red ones though. Because I said red dye 40. My wife, right? She thinks there could be a connection to, you know, the red dye 40 and whatever. So we don't do a lot of red candies and stuff. I don't know if it's in there or not. All right. Sorry for the adulting. Here we go.
Your overwhelming pain takes many forms, and it's very common that people feel powerful, a powerful feeling of anger. And this could be anger against doctors who couldn't do any more, or against relatives who did not give more time to you, against God, against destiny. You know, you may ask questions like, why me? How could this happen to such a nice person? Anger is healthy, you know, after the destructive feeling of guilt and
We've seen Don go through the range of anger. I think that's pretty apparent. You know, we've heard the different comments. Oh, if I find out who did this, I'm going to kill him. You know, or we're going to put him in, you know, prison forever. You know, we've heard the thank you, Darth. Yeah, California, we're allergic to red dye. Yeah, it is. It can make them angry, make them just kind of. There's some talk. There's some talk about a link between bullying and red dye 40. So, if you remove the platform, hopefully, you know they can't stand on it, right? What are you doing, boy? You in the toy box? Playroom. Okay, we're gonna move forward.
previous stage of grieving. You know, pain leaves you without anchor. You feel totally out of control in your life. Anger puts you back in control. You know, we're trained to control anger from a very early age, and anger gives a practical outlet to your devastating pain. It's very important not to vent your anger to those closest to you. You know.
Now, so typically this is a typical situation, right? This is when it's in typical order. You know, you don't want to demonstrate that anger. You want to keep it in house so that you don't say or do things that, you know, you can't come back from, or, you know, that require you to make, you know, apologies that you don't have time to be making. You know, when someone's going through the grieving process, you know, and you know, we've seen people explode. Yeah, we've all seen it. We've seen Don explode. We've seen Candace explode. And there's so many people out there that you know, that I guess are you know, wouldn't do certain things, right? They wouldn't be, you know, let me say it this way. Most of us don't even know what we would do when we're in this place on this is an international stage now. It's international stage, right? It is not just an American stage.
I got my bubble gum.
Where'd your bubble gum go?
In my tummy.
Oh no! You don't swallow bubble gum.
I chewed it. I chewed it up. I chewed it up. I swallowed it.
You know you're not supposed to chew bubble or swallow bubble gum.
I chewed it.
Yeah, no more bubble gum, okay?
Why?
Because you know what happens? Bubble gum stays in your tummy for 7 years.
How should I get them out?
It's not gonna come out. It's staying in there.
Forever?
I hope not.
Why?
No, it won't stay in there forever.
How should I get it out?
It'll come out soon.
Oh,
Okay, moving forward.
I went inside.
I'm almost done. Can you give me like?
I want
He is the sweetest. Thank you, Beaver.
I want all the bubble gum stuck in my tummy forever. I love bubble gum.
Yeah, he's like, I didn't swallow the whole round bubble gum, Dad. I chewed it first. Oh boy, these kids. These kids. These kids these days. I mean, look at these kids these days. Hmm. We're true criming, aren't we? Are we true criming? Get up here with me, man. Where are you going? We're true criming, man. Come on. That we can true crime without any curse words. All right, moving forward.
They're also grieving. You need them. You don't want to lose them. You've lost enough already. The stages of grief do not follow each other in the same order for all people.
Did you get that? The stages of grief don't follow the same order for all people. Although we all will go through, if we successfully traverse grief, we all will go through them. Now, I think that this is the standard route. I think that if you're not kind of going through some sort of predestined protocol, that it would be hard to be therapized, right? So
anger can easily combine with guilt and turn on you. Even when you lash out at others, deep down you might feel that you failed your loved one in some way.
So we'll move on. I want to move to this. That feeling of guilt, it certainly plays in situations like this. A stupid decision with the DUI. The self-bashing, all of that stuff. Now, this is all in scope, and we haven't even mentioned the boys. This is just in scope of Summer and her and how she, her regards to the family, right? Not the missing three, the other three, right? So, for those that aren't aware, even when you break up, right? Even when you break up with someone you love, you're still going to go through the grieving process, because if it's an official clean break, you won't see that person again, right? Or DIVORCE, stuff like that. There's that, with no kids or whatever. So, there's even situations with kids, I guess, where DIVORCE is a thing, right? We don't say that word, right? So, and he don't even spell good yet, so he don't even know. So moving forward.
But it didn't bother at this point. Well, I knew right away that she was abducted. I knew that right away, and that's what I told him from the beginning.
So what you see there, in my interpretation, is that Don already was past his shock and denial stage. He was already past the first stage, because he pulled up on a situation where his two boys were down below on the flat, and they, no, don't you touch. Come on. He knew, he pulled up on the two boys, and he's like, oh no, something's wrong.
But but they have to go through their, I forget.
Now, I want to also add, we know that there's a gag order on the boys, but what that does, what's hard about that is that the family, the core, right, the mom and the dad, Don and Candace, they haven't been able or effectively or even legally been able to try to process this with their boys. And so I really hope that, part of the road back to coming home certainly would be some sort of, reunification in terms of, everybody being on the same page. I think that's, I don't know, right, to keep the boys in the dark like that, or to keep them separated in terms of the worst thing they'll probably go through together, to keep them sort of on an island from one another, really seems to be counter conducive.
To where
Investigation.
they have to do one step at a time, I guess. But I'm sorry that they had to spend so many man hours in these woods and everything. I've seen them limping and everything else.
So he's guilty. He's feeling guilty even about the searchers, right?
And I feel for them.
Well, see, there he feels for him, right? He feels bad, like he doesn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. He's just in this grieving process. Now,
Mommy, Daddy.
what? Well, then lay down that way so I can. Okay. Now, what's important, and I need to mention, because now we're this deep into it, and we're all in agreement, right? I want to take a quick poll really quick. Put a 1 in the chat if you believe the Wells are grieving. Put a 2 in the chat if you feel like the Wells are not grieving. I think that the general consensus will be 1. Right. Yep. Because now we're this deep into it, and we're all in agreement, right? I want to take a quick poll really quick. Hold on. Put a 1 in the chat if you believe. Okay. So clearly, we see some grieving going on. Now we have to move to the next step, and we have to ask ourselves, do we think they're grieving? And we can clearly, it's a general consensus, they're grieving. Are they grieving? Do they have the depth to grieve a crime they were involved in? Because then you start getting to this weird slope. It's a razor's edge, right? And you're like, can they be a part of it and grieve in a way that we can see that would lead us to believe they didn't have something to do with it? Because when you start to see someone grieving is the natural process to a natural event. The circumstances can be unnatural. You follow me? But it's that slippery slope, right? So that's where you have to pick and choose right there. Because if we all believe they're grieving, now you have to make them good for being psychopaths that can actually grieve in a correct way while they had something to do with the disappearance of their daughter. And let me mind you, after taking a polygraph test, right? That's important to remember. I mean, it's critical. So,
If someone you love is terminally ill, you might try bargaining. You might try to bargain with God or with destiny. You might promise to be a better person, or stop smoking, or
I mean, we bargain with God all the time, right? Oh, God, if you let me feel better, I'll never drink again. We do it, right? I mean, a lot of times when we selfishly come to God with the things we want for ourselves, we make deals, right? Oh, please, Lord, please help me. I promise I'll go to church more. I'll pay tithes. I'll do all these things to appease you if you help me right now.
be more generous, if only. Bargaining is particularly powerful in this stage for people who have been diagnosed with a terminal illness. And bargaining for your own life can offer hope or a channel for pain that gives more control. As with other stages of grief, anger and bargaining, they can last a short time, they can last weeks, months, or you might skip them altogether. It's important to look for signs of uncontrolled anger, which can irreparably damage your relationships with those closest and dearest to you. The next stage is depression and loneliness. All the powerful emotions that follow denial are exhausting, but they represent hope. Strong emotions are one way your pain shows its ugly face. But at some point, the hope fades and you face the reality, and that reality is devastating. The loved one is really gone.
What? We all following here? So actually, I guess taking, hey, I'm going to go have a cigarette, okay? Be right back. We're almost done here, guys. I would say that there's somewhere in between the third and the fourth, right? We've heard Don talk about statistics in the past week or 10 days. And in Don's situation, for him to start talking about statistics certainly would lead you to believe that he's started to really take on the healthy complexities of the grieving process, right? Like he's, I think that's also